Welcome to Marci Talks Money and Life with your host, Money Marci.
Hello, I am Money Marci. Welcome to my wrap-up of Season 2. I have here my special guest, my good friend Caryn Martinez of Peppy Paws Play Yard in Mesa, Arizona. She's here so that you don't have to listen to me talk to myself.
I should have practiced jokes so I could be comic relief, but you're better at jokes than I am.
Well, I don't know about that. I guess anybody who would like to comment with who's funnier this episode, we'd love to hear it. So let me reiterate, the purpose of this podcast is education and information. It's important that listeners do their own research and work with real financial professionals who know their specific situation so they can give them advice. I'm giving you information. My guests are giving you information and trying to be resources of learning. Caryn, what'd you think of my second season?
I liked your second season. You had some very interesting people on the second season. I also knew I was doing this wrap up, so of course I was making sure to take notes. And I'm going to quote you. When we started the second season, you said, "That's the kind of friend I am. I give you homework."
You did volunteer to do this. You're not being coerced. I just want to put that out there that there is no blackmail involved.
I'm being endlessly amused by the cat tail going in front of her.
I'm just happy she's showing her tail and not her behind. So you guys are missing the opportunity, because this is an audio podcast, of seeing my cat Morgana really try and take over the show. I started off season 2 with a bang to show that it wasn't just money, that we're also exploring the life, because life is so impactful to your money situation, to the opportunities you have, to the lessons you've learned. I started with Maddie Andrews. We talked about mental health. She is someone who has gone through significant mental health issues and is now pivoted and is working in social work. Obviously, some of her issues are lifetime issues she will continue to deal with. And we also got to talk about how that might impact your education opportunities, your job opportunities. I really liked having that conversation. It made me think that people with mental health issues, maybe they aren't going to interview as well. Maybe they're like that 8th round draft pick that all of a sudden becomes your superstar because they are giving, I'm going to say 100%, because as a numbers person, I hate this. They gave 110%. You can't give more than everything. You can leave it all out on the field, but you can't give more than you have. Sometimes you'll have people that recognize their situation might make them less desirable initially as an employee, and so they will give you levels of loyalty, levels of emotional involvement that you may not get from an employee who feels, oh, I can just walk off and do whatever, and everyone's going to flock to me because I'm your first round draft pick.
Yeah, because somebody that has had time off for taking care of mental illness has gaps in the resume that they may not feel comfortable explaining, or, they can honestly explain it and it might count against them. So to go to what you say, that it makes it more difficult when they're looking for a job.
Right, and sometimes they just need flexibility on a job. Maybe they can work 4 long days because they can't work 5 days a week. They need a break after 2 days, or they need whatever they need. And in exchange, you can get valuable loyalty, because the cost of replacing employees is so huge. It frustrates me when I hear that an employee left because the company wouldn't match their wage, and then they hire someone brand new who doesn't know the company and they're paying them more. It's like, you could have given them a raise. It would have been cheaper and more beneficial in the long run. But that's a whole HR and other thing.
Well, and another thing, somebody like Maddie, who counsels people who are trying to navigate getting jobs or the healthcare system or anything else that she's helping them with, somebody like her can explain to somebody with those mental health gaps in the resume, or what actually even more, what you were saying about needing to work certain hours or 4 days a week. Hey, that's not just you. Like, people that have no problem ever with a mental health issue might be saying, to take this job, I really can only work 4 days, or I really have to work these hours for any number of reasons, most likely parenting. So sometimes people that have mental health issues feel like, oh no, I'm the only person that's going to ask for accommodations. No, you are not. And counselors like Maddie are the ones that lay that out for them and explain it.
We think about all the changes that have happened in the job world because of COVID and the positive things that are out there, because all of a sudden we had to work from home. And then we found out that you can get people to work from home and be as productive, and in some cases more productive. Companies are transitioning back and requiring their employees to be in the office more and more. And I understand some of it. There are obviously always going to be people who take advantage of a situation and not necessarily doing what they should be during their work hours. But a lot of people are being more productive at home. And companies aren't necessarily taking a look at, okay, you're being productive at home, you can stay at home. You're not being productive at home, you need to come in the office, or maybe you're not the employee we want. And they're painting everybody with broad strokes. And we can't do that. People are individuals, whether it is mental health or family obligations, whether it is their children or their parents or their spouse or whatever. And I love having mental health professionals come on and talk about things like that, as well as having people who have gone through it. I've got a young man in a few more episodes that will talk some more about things like that. But I guess we can move on to my second guest, Stephanie Leandre. She is a coach. She is a notary. She ended up, I don't know that this is necessarily where she expected to end it up, but she is this great resource for her community.
Yeah, one of the things that I would have liked to have known more about, and maybe eventually I'll catch her on another podcast, or if she ever comes back to yours, she talked about specifically coaching the Haitian community. And I thought, oh, I want to know what's special. I was just curious, like, what is different about coaching the Haitian community than the general public, And so that'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, I think anytime we talk about a community that has more recently come here, yeah, and is still, I don't want to say they're not integrated, because they are integrated and they are part of the greater community, but you always want to be around people that know where you came from mentally, emotionally, that you have these similar values, this community that expects certain things at certain times, whatever, that they are going to be a little bit different. Just from talking to clients, when I talk to clients from different backgrounds, whether they came from money or they came from a background of poverty, whether they came from an extended family or they came from really being solo with their small family unit, whether they came from being educated or not educated or whatever else, they all have differences. So I imagine that that's the same for any, when you come from any country, you come from any background, whether it's by your religious leaders or your family leaders or your language education, because a lot of cultures, when they come here, they want to continue to learn the language from back home, so you can continue to speak with your relatives who stayed behind.
What I liked that Stephanie talked about is she talked about the things that you don't take into consideration when buying your first home, or things that you should and people don't take in consideration, or if you're doing a second home in a different state. And I really liked that she was laying that out, because that's really important. She also described the difference between a financial planner and a financial coach, and that's really important for people to know. And I liked that she talked about that.
Yeah, she was a really interesting guest. And then Azan from the podcast Light of Wisdom. What a fascinating young man. He just decided to podcast, and his friend said, sure, that sounds great. And they're editing, and what they've done is they've created a community where they are now learning skills they can put on resumes, because now they've been editing, they've been doing all of these things, so they're learning about networking and the way he shares education on his podcast, because he's finding people like me, because I guested on his podcast. We've shared a few guests. So he's spreading knowledge and networking opportunities. He talks about his family support, that his parents are supportive of it.
That was really nice. He said that they had never told him, you can't do this. You must go out and find a full-time job. They just said, oh, what a great project. Give it a go. That was very nice.
Yeah, he's doing this networking within the people he knows, his parents, his friends that are helping. He's making new friends that are helping him to edit and grow, and then just creating this community and networking as he's going. And then I went on to Mark Astor, which is Guardianship for Mental Health and Substance Abuse. I had never considered that was even a thing. It made sense when I was talking to him. Of course there needs to be, but you think of guardianship for people that may have special needs, or as they get older, if they have issues that might not allow for them to be able to take care of their financial wherewithal. But his was mental health and substance abuse, so he's looking at these short-term guardianships for people who are in treatment or something that needs them to have time away and someone else to handle their stuff.
I was the opposite. I was shocked that this wasn't considered normal. When he said most people don't think about guardianship for, mental health and substance abuse, I'm like, what? I don't understand why this isn't considered normal. So I was surprised to find that it isn't used more often.
I mean, I'm aware of the big celebrity cases, Britney Spears and who's a talk show, Wendy Williams.
That was like literally stealing their money. I'm talking about in ordinary times when somebody has mental illness, which means that they can't regularly take care of maybe their finances or understand their medical care and that sort of thing. I guess there are other avenues besides guardianship, but the guardianship just makes sense as it is for somebody that is elderly and has dementia or something like that. But so I guess I wanted to say that I was surprised that it was so little used, that people were shocked.
Because his are those short term, for when someone is in treatment, not for that longer term. When, we're not talking about when someone has dementia and they're not going to get better. You are taking care of them for whatever the rest of whatever. We're talking about just they're going into treatment. Maybe it's a couple of months, maybe it's a little bit longer. But
that's what I was saying. It makes perfect sense to me that they have that short term. I'm going to have this for a year.
Yeah.
Go through that. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I had never really thought about it.
And you are not alone. Nobody's thought of it. I'm the only person who's thought of it, apparently. He gave a section of advice about how to spot substance abuse in teens. So if you had a teen, this is probably something that all high schools tell parents, but I didn't hear it, so I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and he's got a great website with a lot of information on this. He posts videos and is very accessible. So that's great. If you're in one of these situations, some family member, friend, whatever, to be aware that there are more resources out there than you know of, because it's like anything else. It affects whatever percentage of the population it affects. But when it does, it's everything, and that's devastating. And then you're having to come from nowhere to getting up to speed and getting that information you need. You want to get it done yesterday. I'm more slow and meticulous on doing things, and sometimes that's not your best way to do things. He was a great guest with a lot of great information. And then from him, we go to Cheryl Lacasse about insurance.
So interesting. And people are like, the insurance one was so interesting. It was so interesting.
Boy, it's all this stuff, and especially because insurance is something we all use. We all use it regularly. You own a car, or you rent property, or you have a house that you own, or some of the toys, whatever it is. We are all at some point in time dealing with some form of this insurance. I don't know that much. I know enough to, well, what should my deductible be? It used to be the rule of thumb was after your car was about 10 years old, you get rid of because the car's not worth it. Well, now with this computer stuff and the chips in all of them, cars get totaled more regularly and they're worth a lot more when they get totaled. And it's like, wow, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, she said that more cars are being totaled than ever before only because of the computer chips getting damaged. That's just amazing. They could fix the body and the engine and everything, but it's not economically smart to replace those computer chips. I mean, to repair them, you've got to just replace. The whole car's gone.
I hate that. I hate when things are wasted, but I also don't want to be driving a car that isn't safe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who does?
This is just an aside that she did, but I thought it was such a cool idea. Water sensors underneath your sinks and with your pipes, because they can now connect via Wi-Fi to your phone and alert you. Your pipe is leaking. Having had to redo an entire kitchen because of a leak that happened while we were out of town, I think that would have been a good idea.
I bought my condo those many years ago. I think I had only been there maybe a month when something broke in the toilet and I had a water feature in my kitchen. Now,
No,
because of the location of it and everything else, it really only was drywall repair, which I was able to do by myself. And I didn't have to call anyone for it. But water damage from busted pipes, whether they're internal or external, this was something in the toilet. It wasn't like there was extreme weather. The flapper or the thing that goes up to make it stop running, it kept running and I was out. These things happen to everybody. They happen all the time. You can't help it. And knowing about the drivers and the drivers in your household and who drives what car and how that can negate all the insurance, it's like all of these things we don't think about. We use insurance all the time. We pay our bills monthly or quarterly or annually and figure it's going to be there for us. And if we're not aware, we could be negating the whole policy.
I also want to, give praise to independent insurance agents like she is. Of course, being an independent agent, she talked about the benefits, but I also can say from personal experience, having an independent insurance agent for our home and auto has been really great because each year when it's supposed to renew, she goes out and looks, ooh, could there be a different agency that is better? What is different this year? Because it always changes. And I really like that they're looking into that personalized for me. And then I also have an independent agent for my business. I know it's like, why aren't they all the same? But they're not. Some companies specialize like ours for animal businesses. But again, this is a person that I could call at any time and get him on the phone. And he's 100% with animal business and that sort of thing to answer questions.
And as always, someone who knows your business, because I imagine
Oh,
a
yeah.
dog business is a lot different than an accounting business.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And we have horse insurance through literally, that's all they do is insure horses. That's where we get our horse insurance.
Let's pause for a quick break. Let's go on. Todd Polke was a personal trainer and he has now become a financial guru. He deals in real estate and investments, and we sidetracked onto judo, and that was just fun.
Yeah. He didn't realize you did judo, or you didn't realize he did judo?
Why would judo have come up on either of ours? And he just mentioned something about judo.
Yeah.
But anytime you meet someone, you never know what they're going to be interested in or how they got to where they got. I always find that fascinating to see that path. So there he was, a personal trainer, and then he met someone and said, oh yeah, this looks interesting and this looks productive. And now he's training other people about finances and how to work their finances. And of course, he had a lovely accent.
I don't really have a lot of comments about that one. It was fun to listen to you guys talk about judo.
And it's interesting when people get into specific areas of financial and of the planning, and people who are brokers versus they are speakers and educators, and the information that they have, how well that translates, and how important it is to find the people to work with that ring true for you.
He did create his own training program, didn't he?
Yes.
Financial training program, because he wasn't happy with the ways that he had learned about financial things or a lot of things. And so he's eventually created his own.
Right, and he worked in real estate to learn more about real estate investing, but he was finding that the people that were training him how to buy and sell real estate really for other people weren't the same as the people who were investing in real estate. So you never
Oh,
know,
yeah.
you know,
There is a big difference there. Yeah.
there is a huge difference, and it's important to find the right mentors for what
Hmm.
you want to do. I love the conversations that show about pivoting, that show it's okay to say, okay, well, this was right and now it's not so right, or this I thought it was going to be right and it's not right. And it's okay to move and make those changes, and you can find better results, better productivity by finding the places, the people that are right for you and the things for you to do. Then next was Sam Mitchell, who is an autism activist, a podcaster, and this kind of ties to Maddie Andrews at the front in that different people need different things and they bring different skill sets, different attitude, different whatever to what you're doing. I love the message, which was even if you are autistic and limited in the jobs you can do, you still need to get out. You can't just stay in your parents' basement. You can't just do nothing. Find something that you're capable of doing, of contributing to the world, to your community, whether it's working for your parents or working at fast food or whatever it is that you can do, you should be doing something.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing that he said as well. And I like that he emphasized that it doesn't have to be employment that you get up and do, because your own family may need help in a way that you can help them. And you could, at the very least, take care of yourself and your own house. I mean, some people have a lot of limits and employment may not be for them, but that doesn't mean that they can't help other people out or volunteer or at least be a contributor to their own family. So I really liked that he emphasized that.
He's got the community that he created that goes out and raises money and does other things to support the community. So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see where he goes with all this. I think he's got a bright and interesting future in front of him. And then we go to Albert Bramante, who is a psychologist, an agent, a hypnotherapist, an author. He was in psychology and ended up supporting therapy on a talk show, one of those
Oh,
interview shows.
Sally Jesse Raphael.
Right. And seeing that what happens behind the scenes is not the reality that people watching it think they're seeing.
Even seeing it, you can know what he was talking about. He said that the people were not getting any true support. He had been excited that they would help people, but they don't. People appear on the show and then that's the end of it. There's nothing about that experience that was helping the people that were on that show.
Well, they got a trip to New York out of it, but it sounded like they were ready to leave very fast. But I love that he's, turned that into other things that he's interested in. He has the hypnotherapy recordings. He's an agent. He hasn't just pivoted, he's added things. He's like, "Oh, I like doing this, but I also want to do that, and I also want to do that." And
Well, actually, he's still, now, if I remember correctly, he's still working as an agent,
he is
correct?
still working as an
That's what I
agent.
thought. Okay, so as a former entertainment agent myself, I really liked that he is helping the people that he's working with as an agent with financial things. And not like he's being their accountant or anything. What he's doing, and he said, is that he notices that a lot of them have myths and negative views about money, first of all, and they also don't really have practical ways of handling the way people earn money in the entertainment industry because it comes in fits and starts. So at least anybody who has him as an agent has somebody that's like, one way or another, you really have to plan, like anybody who works contract work, for how to keep the money for you and plan it, invest it, spend it, anything that is good for you, because it's really different. And that's true. I know it from an agent point of view.
Yeah, yeah, and he had interesting stories. I think it's fascinating that he then took his I think it was his doctoral research paper, and rewrote it into regular English rather than technical terms so people could understand it, and published it as the book Rise Above the Script about self-doubt, because these things are so important. As an entrepreneur, learning to do that. As an actor, I can't even imagine. You get way more no's than you get yeses. So I love that he is approaching that as someone from his agent, and he said he had done some acting, as well as from that knowledge base of a psychologist to be able to speak to that. Brenda Mann is someone I have known since my guys were in elementary school, because we ended up at the same school for a period of time. And I only knew her as an involved mother. Her work is fascinating and valuable. It's important to bring that foundational knowledge to our kids, to give them support they need early so that they can learn the skills they need to support themselves later. If your child has challenges such as from autism or ADHD, kids who need a little extra something in the classroom.
Yeah, and one thing that she pointed out that was interesting is that ADHD runs in families. So if you have an undiagnosed or unsupported parent, that parent is going to have extra trouble supporting the child that also has ADHD. She helps adults as well as children. I didn't realize how much it runs in families and the real importance it is of diagnosing adults so that the whole family can get help.
Yeah, and I love that when she got a client who was diagnosed, she would look back and say, okay, what is the school doing? And she would work with the schools. It wasn't a matter of, well, your school should do X, Y, Z. It was a matter of, okay, let's talk to them. Let's find out what they're doing, what they can do, what you need to do. That advocacy piece, because when your child is struggling, you want things to be right. You don't know necessarily how to work with the school. And as much as the labels might be one, oh yeah, we've had X number of kids with ADHD or X number of kids with autism or X number of kids with whatever, every kid is different. She's the one who can take the time to know your kid and find out what they need so that they can appropriately give the right support. It may not be that your kid needs something that costs more or takes more time, but it's just a little bit different to really give them that level of skill building so they can go on to their rest of their life and be more successful. Having the diagnoses and the support, having the early intervention and that support gives them a better structure for building their future on. Joe Dillon, divorce mediation. I've heard about mediation before. I've had seminars from the accounting perspective where they talk about mediation by attorneys or groups that did mediation. Here's the finances. It costs less to do mediation. With Joe, we were able to really kind of talk about that more. I'd like to have him and his wife back to talk about the support she gives from her side, which is the more kind of the therapeutic, how that can make the difference, because I expect you, like I, have had friends that have had ugly divorces, and the only ones that walk away with money are the lawyers. And that's not a dig against the lawyers. That's what the participants wanted. Someone wanted something so much they were willing to sabotage themselves just to get back at the other person. But it sounds like mediation can give people a better way to both walk forward from it. Especially if you've got kids, you're going to be in each other's lives for a long time, and then maybe there's grandkids. You're going to have this continuing relationship. If you can find a way to build that new bridge into whatever that relationship is going to be, everyone can win.
He also said, and this was interesting because normally people don't talk about whether they have a prenuptial agreement. Anyway, people neglect to update them, and they really have to update them. It's something I hadn't thought about, not having one myself, but yeah, you have to update that. And then they call it a postnup.
Yeah, I don't really understand fully how that works, but it is interesting to consider that you would be updating a prenup and the things that could help you.
Yeah, I was going to say it would be interesting to have the both of them back, but I did understand the point of it, because your financial situation changes as well as your family situation once you have kids. And so if you're thinking ahead, what would happen if we were to split up, that's going to change over the years. Maybe after you've been married for a certain amount of years, now we don't think that we'll split up. But then again, you never know. So if you were started the marriage thinking you needed one, you probably need to update it along the way. I mean, you update other things. People update their wills and their powers
Trust.
of attorney and their trusts and everything like that. So
Yeah, to me it's just the concept. Well, the prenup is to segregate what we had in case we get divorced. That would be a weird conversation to have. I like you and we're doing great, but in case we split, I want to make sure I get my fine china.
yeah, yeah. Hey,
I,
it makes that mediation much easier. Yeah.
right, but I mean, doing the post-nup, it would be a weird conversation to have, but it makes sense. George is I love talking to CPAs. He is focused on small business, and he's putting out that financial literacy piece on his website. So it's not just, well, if you're my client and you're already paying me, let me talk to you about money. He's kind of putting it out there to the greater community. So that was just a fun conversation.
Well, he specializes in people who are self-employed. I looked at his website and everything. His company does presentations for employees that explain benefits, the company's benefits. How do you take advantage of the company's benefits? And they do those presentations. Super important because those can be so confusing. My husband worked for some really big companies and they had really confusing things. So that's a really nice offering.
Yeah, it is. I think companies don't realize how powerful it is to educate your employees about what the benefits are that they have.
It might keep them working for you.
Exactly.
It'll keep them at your company if they realize how good those benefits are.
If they realize and they take advantage and they feel appreciated, you're taking the time to make sure that they understand what the benefits are, what the resources, what you are giving them. I worked at a company, we'd bring in the insurance agent every year to explain the plans rather than me having to try and explain the health insurance. But really, other than me periodically nagging people, you really should sign up for the retirement plan and make the contributions. And you can't drag people kicking and screaming, but if you make them have a presentation and say, okay, you got to show up at the presentation. I love what he does. That was great to see that out there. Neil Twa, the e-commerce guru and coach. That's really interesting to me is you hire me and I help you coach you up to building your business into being all that it can be in e-commerce. And if you decide afterwards you've created something so big you don't want it anymore, come talk to me and maybe I'll even buy it from you. Because a lot of people, they do build something and they spend however many years and then they're ready to step out of it. But then finding someone who understands it and knows the value and is willing to buy it, it's really a full circle kind of thing.
I think he picks people that are like they're going to build a business that he's going to want to buy.
Well, and he coaches them into it. He helps
Yeah.
encourage them to be successful so that he can buy a successful business. Everybody wins. If I could coach you into building something successful that I wanted to get, so you're doing the legwork on the ground, but I'm coaching you to make sure you do it right. You're pulling out a good salary from it. You've now done the groundwork with support and everything else to build something. It's an interesting way to do it, to put it out there. Yes, you're paying me for coaching to make you successful, but also to have that built-in exit strategy. Because how many times, if you watch Shark Tank, do the sharks say, yeah, we'll just buy this from you, and someone's like, yeah, you know what? Now I can move on to something else. I've built this, and now I can walk away with a bunch of money in my pocket and build something else. Some people like the building part of it. Some people want the security of that paycheck. Whichever works. Ginny Trask. I met her on Speakers Playhouse, which is a group. She is one of the creators of it. And when we were just kind of connecting after that, I was like, wow, I want to have you on my podcast because you have so many interesting stories. And as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as a speaker's coach, all the things she's putting out there, because I know so many people right now that are looking at becoming speakers, at sharing their information. It's important to have these places where you can have that community to practice, to grow, to build your skills and your resume and whatever else. So that part was fascinating.
It goes back to the idea that you visited a couple of times is how great theater kids are for
Right.
your business. Because she said that acting helps her step into her customer's shoes. Improv helps her think on her feet. And so those skills helped her build her business.
Right. And I love she came from this family of entrepreneurs. Well, am I going to end up in the family business? And she decided she liked travel.
Well, not only that, she learned from what her family didn't do so well because she said that her father put all of his money back into the business all the time without building up savings. And that was a precarious way to be. So she puts always only a third into her own salary and then a third into savings and a third back into the business. So only a third goes back so that she always has like the savings and the salary. That's what she said her formula was.
Right, and I like that conversation about she had an office and it wasn't necessarily expensive, but she realized she held on to it too long after
Oh, yeah.
COVID. You know,
Mhm.
I don't
She
really
said,
need
"Don't be
office space.
sentimental." She said, "Don't be sentimental about business expenses." And I that was really good advice because sometimes I'm like that. I'm like, "But I like this service." And it's like, "Well, but I you like the service, but really for business, you don't need it anymore, you know."
Right. And that reminds me, I want to find someone who does decluttering to talk to because just that whole concept of recognizing things to let go of, whether it is work contracts like, oh, I'm paying rent on a space I'm not really using, or stuff we have at home that we're not using, whether we can sell it or just get rid of it to make space for things that we value. I always find it interesting what speakers and topics lend me to, oh, wow, you know what, that reminds me, I want to get a so and so on my show.
Yeah. There's some really good decluttering people that would be great on your show. If this goes on much longer, I am going to be your expert. I just am.
Well, I'll have you on any time. I already have you on regularly for Wrap Up. Let's pause for a quick break. And then I had a Nirban, Andy Bhattacharya, who does supply chain, and he's been an entrepreneur and an educator. He is teaching. He talks about what is success, what is failure, what opportunities look like. He has had a very bumpy journey.
He's somebody who objectively has had good success, and yet he will admit, he says, I don't feel like I'm successful enough. I never feel like I can take pride in the things that I do. And he was very honest about that, which was good. A lot of people wouldn't say, I realize that this doesn't make sense, but that's still how I feel. He says, I struggle with perfectionism. And, he really revealed a lot about himself in the interview.
Yeah, and I think that's common for a lot of people, not the revealing part, but that going through and they don't feel successful because we don't know how to judge what success is. Is it the number in the bank? Is it the life you lead at home? Is it the life other people think you have? We all have different measures of success, and if we don't figure out, that's gonna be a challenge. He was like, well, yeah, my refrigerator was empty, and so you're like, oh my God, this guy, he's got nothing. And then he's like, yeah, and so I took money out of the investments, and that's really honest because we put things away and we're like, well, I am not going to touch that. And then there comes a point in time where it's like, no, we have to touch that. We have to change
Mhm.
things. We have to change our mindset. We have to adjust our expectations. It does sound like though that he is finding that peace. He's like, yeah, at 40, I know what I want to do. I've got this balance of my spiritual and my all these other things, and that's so important. There are people that work themselves to death because they're just never finding that happiness, never finding that emotional success that they need, because it's not just the dollars in the bank. It's you have to be comfortable with the life that you're living. I didn't understand a lot of the stuff with supply chain and some of the things he says. I didn't understand the specifics. I do understand that yes, there is a market for this in this country, but in this country you can't sell that. It's the educational component of learning where you are and what you do and what is the best way to market to the right people. Okay, Andrew Quebman. So he just kept learning stuff, and the next thing you knew, he was in investing.
I actually wrote down, this is so funny. I wrote down legitimate financial advisor. And part of his advice was, here's what you should like really look for. Here are the red flags for people who may not be giving you the best advice. And I just loved that he actually just said, do that. But I have to say, I also like, and you touched on it earlier with somebody else, but it's what you also said during that interview. He was talking about creating opportunities to pivot from one thing to another. And you said, yeah, you don't have to finish what you start if it's not the right thing for you. And I think people who feel like they have to finish what they start and feel like it's wrong to pivot are the people that really get into trouble in their own lives, So I liked what both of you said in that interview.
We're always taught growing up, you want to clean plate, or if you sign up for a club or a sport or whatever else, well, you've got to finish the season. Those are small things. Granted, I don't think you should clean your plate if you had too much to eat or you're done, you're done. And I do understand certainly finishing something you start where other people are relying on you, but that's not the same as saying, you know what, I'm in the wrong line of work. I need to go be doing something else. I'm probably going to be more successful.
Or I'm studying the wrong thing at school,
Right.
that sort of thing. Those are things, I mean, other people aren't relying on you to, for those things. Those are your opportunity to pivot.
Right. You have to figure out what works for you. And if you're on the wrong path, you don't owe it to someone else to become a profession if it's the wrong profession for you. You have to figure it out. And I know in some families that could be an issue because everyone went to this school or became this major or became this profession. But sometimes that's not the right thing for you. I'm a second generation accountant. There is not a third generation accountant in my family. Neither of my guys it's a good fit for, and that's okay. They have to do what is right for them. But I understand if I had an office and a dynasty, I would want them to come into that business, but you have to do what's right for you. You're going to be doing this a long time. You're going to be working at your profession unless you pivot and change. You could be working at it for 40 years, maybe 50 years. It better be something that makes you happy and that you do reasonably well.
He also talked about, and I don't know why I didn't know about this, but he talked about financial professionals such as financial investment bankers, investment advisors that specialize in people with special needs. I didn't know that because you just figured that the general knowledge, but they're specialized in that. So I thought that was really interesting to know.
Yeah, I would love to get those as. Hold on a second.
I see you making a note. Get one
Yeah,
of those.
I would love to get as a guest attorneys that handle elder care, special needs trusts.
Oh, I was going to say attorneys that do that.
I would love to because these are things that people don't know about. And there are also times in your life where you need that specialist.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of those things. But Andrew was a great conversation and great to see all the various professionals that he dealt with because that tells you he's really so that he can give his clients the best advice. He's saying, here's this guy who I've worked with who does this very specific thing. Kate Moyer, Mama's Making Commas. She is another one who pivots, who makes the change. She was working as a city planner and realized that these goals that had been on her list since she was much younger, she'd achieved them, everything was great, but they weren't what she wanted anymore. And so she was looking for ways to pivot. She found some e-commerce that worked for her for a while. And as she did it, she was like, yeah, this isn't quite what I'm looking for. So she made a slightly more educated decision and found something else that worked better. But then she was like, yeah, this isn't everything I want yet. So she pivoted again. And she is teaching people how to do what she did. She's supporting them. She had a podcast. I believe she's evaluating whether she's going to continue with the podcast or not. But I love the pivoting. I love no, these are what's important to me now.
But she also described how she carefully planned leaving the full-time job when she was working for somebody else. She decided she wanted to do that originally because she actually couldn't find acceptable daycare in her own small town. So she planned it all out how she was going to leave that job and start working for herself. And it was like it was an interesting story, step by step, building that and planning it out so that she was ready to go.
I am not a great planner, but I respect the heck out of people who plan things and do things. I kind of fall off cliffs all the time, just randomly. Oh, you know what? Let's write a book. Let's start a podcast. And then I learn as I go. Hopefully, I'm getting better.
I was going to say you weren't going to put your whole livelihood on the line, though, writing that book.
No, I was not.
She had to leave the steady paycheck.
She was going to lose the income she had been earning, but she and her husband discussed it. I love that on her birthday. What do you want for your birthday? I want to go talk to the accountant and figure out if I can do that. I want to be somebody's birthday present.
Maybe if you also offer donuts.
I'll bring the donuts. She got a lunch out of it, but he's also a family friend, so I don't know. But I mean, that's really taking planning seriously. Not just I'm going to look over my stuff. I want to sit down with the accountant and I want to talk about what I want to do and what I have done and how do we get there. So impressive.
Yeah.
And then my final guest of the season, excluding this, was Lindsay Carell, the COO who now helps businesses.
Delegate.
Well, it's not just delegating, because when you think of delegating, a lot of times it's delegating the work. She is talking about how to delegate and spread around the decision making. So many small businesses, I still make all the decisions. I've got these guys doing my stuff. But I'm still making the decisions, which means the business basically shuts down when I go on vacation. They can't make a decision, or else I go on vacation and I'm getting phone calls and emails all the time to make those decisions. And I understand that in a small business, there may be a limit to how many decisions or what type of decisions, whether it's a dollar amount or certain things, that there may be a limit, but understanding that if you don't delegate, you're trapped. You created your own cage.
Yeah. Because people can't make any decisions by themselves. So then you really, instead of just being available for a true emergency, you've got to always be available.
Right. And that becomes a problem. And she had a health scare that kind of really revamped how she was doing and gave her a story she could tell that could really explain it better to them. And I love the trips that she takes and how she encourages those financial literacy lessons for her nieces. You know, I got to respect anyone who loves spreadsheets because I'm all about the spreadsheets.
You will love Alex. He loves spreadsheets.
I love Alex anyway.
You know, she did, when she was growing up, her father motivated her to make savings and plan for the future by saying, whatever you want, I will match 50% of what you earn toward that goal. She's like, I want a horse. And you're like, that's nice, dear. Sure enough. Okay, Dad, I got the down payment. Where's my...
Well, it does help that they live on a ranch, so that they didn't have to do some of the other parts, the boarding and whatever other expenses for a horse.
But she did that. And so now when she takes her nieces on trips, they have to do the whole budget for the trip that the kids stick to.
Right.
They could create their own budgeting of their money so that it'll last throughout the trip.
Now, you can say, oh, but what do you do when you run out of money? If something happened and you ran out of money, and we're not talking about running out of money and now they're stuck at a place and they don't have two nickels to rub together, but this was the budget for the trip. When you're traveling to these places, there are a lot of things you can do for free, whether it's walk around parks or just going on tours without necessarily a guide. So it's not like, okay, now we're going to sit in England and do nothing for 2 days until our flight leaves. What a great way to help kids really understand that. I love that she said, yeah, my brother was thinking Colorado and I was thinking Paris.
Surprise!
That makes it so special, and for them to have that memory and experience of going to a different country and with a seasoned traveler, because it sounds like travel is her love language. That's what a great gift. Ignoring the financial value of it just to have that experience is an amazing gift. So that was our season. I loved the variety of guests I was able to have on this time. I mean, as
Yeah.
much as I love having financial professionals, it's money and life. It's life is part of it because we all go through things, and having these guests that would share their stories, some of them deeply and deeply personal. I was honored by the people that would be my guest, and I do have all these people that I want to have on, like I was talking about the senior care attorney or special needs attorney, and the various things that have to happen and be covered by these things, the discussions you need to have, talking about prenups. I'd love to have bankers on because people don't necessarily know all the services that their banks might offer, to be aware that there are these financial services and financial literacy opportunities from your bank that you're already using. I'd love to bring someone from a mutual fund house on to explain what mutual funds are more in depth than what I can do, and talk about health insurance and the various health insurance policies that are out there. I want to get a Medicare and Social Security expert to come on, talk about what those offer. And
Those would be really useful for people because that's so confusing.
right, and an insurance claims adjuster. What is it like going through when you have to make a claim? What do they want to know from you? What are the questions you can and should ask that maybe you're not aware of? So many things. I'd love to talk to every career out there. I would love to talk, how did you become whatever it is that you became? And of course, financial journeys, because everyone has a financial journey, even people from similar background, even people who grew up next to each other, were in the same grade, had the same teachers, and their parents are friends and all that, learn different lessons about money because of things they saw. So everybody has a financial story. I just have to get them to come on and share it.
I think it'd be really good. Well, we talked about getting the people that would talk about the financial advantage and disadvantage of clutter, not clutter, organized, not organized. So that's something. You were like running down my list of things that I thought was going to be. Now I'm wondering what was missing from that list.
Probably a mortgage loan person. I'd love to have someone talk about the process. If you have never bought a home before, understanding the mortgage loan process and why they keep coming back to you for more pieces of paper.
Yes, why is that?
They're not doing it to be mean, usually. There are so many people I would love to have on here. So if you're listening and you know someone, or you have someone that says, well, they didn't mention it, but I bet they have an interesting story, I would love to hear from them. Did you feel better prepared for the wrap-up this time?
Oh yes, much better prepared.
Hopefully it keeps getting better. I keep getting a wider net of interesting people willing to share their stories. To my listeners, I am so glad that you have joined us for this wrap-up episode of Season 2. If you haven't heard some of my guests before, please look wherever you listen to podcasts and look for the episode and listen to them. They were fabulous people, and they were very generous in the information they shared. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and stay tuned. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, Caryn.
Goodbye.
This has been Money Marci on Marci Talks Money and Life. You got this.